I'd like to call to order the Election Commission of the Municipality of Anchorage. So could we have roll call?
Joyce Anderson.
Here.
Bonnie Lynn Babb.
Here.
Vicki Cantrell. Here. Jim Stevens.
Present.
Petey Strang. She is excused. And Barbara Wallace. Here. Also in attendance, Amanda Moser, Deputy Clerk, Barbara Jones, Municipal Clerk, and Nina Manini from the Mail Board.
Is there any old business to come before the commission? Hearing none, we'll move on to our new business.
Through the chair, I would like to just take a moment to talk about the process that we went through as we reviewed the question and absentee ballots. The Election Commission worked alongside of election officials to review them. When voters were determined that they potentially were ineligible to vote in this election, those were given through a second and third run-through, first by election officials, then by clerk's office staff, and a final review by both Barbara Jones, Municipal Clerk, and me, Amanda Moser, Deputy Clerk. So we have really tried to identify and make sure that we were thorough in our process of reviewing the ballots, specifically the ones that we identified as no counts. We recognize that that is a sensitive area. The clerk's office notified voters by letter if their vote did not count, and the voters were notified of tonight's meeting. They were also it was also known that they could contact the clerk's office with a written statement up until Tuesday at 3 p.m. before the assembly meeting on the 21st to certify the election. So now we'll just go through the absentee and question ballots that have been determined that there are no counts, and we will go through by the no count code. So we will start with our first code on the sheet, which is code E. This code is used to determine a voter's ballot, or if a voter's ballot envelope does not contain a voted ballot. There was one voter whose ballot envelope did not contain a ballot.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the rejection of no count E for our consideration?
I so move.
Okay, it's been moved by Bonnie Lynn. Is there a second?
Second it.
Thank you, Barbara. It's been seconded by. Is there any discussion concerning no count code E? Hearing none, the public comment is closed. The motion to approve the rejection is on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. Hearing none, the motion to reject no count code E has been approved.
This second no count code is no count code I. This code is used when it's been determined that the voter's status and condition code are inactive because he or she is registered in another jurisdiction or state, requested cancellation of registration, is convicted of a felony involving moral turpitude, died or attempted to register in the past on a question or absentee ballot but did not provide required registration information. Please note that there are two inactive codes that are count codes, but the 3 voters that we have from this year's election that have the no count code, 2 of them are under review for felony status, and the third one has registered in another state. So there are 3 voters in the no count code I.
Is there a motion to approve the rejection of no code count I?
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved by Joyce. Is there a second?
I second it.
It's been seconded by Vicki. Any public comment? Hearing no comments or questions, the public comment is closed on this issue. The motion to approve the rejection is on the table. And this is for the motion to reject count code E.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Count code aye.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. E, aye. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. Hearing none, the motion to reject count code I has been approved.
The next no count code is MOA. This code is used when it's been determined that the voter is registered within the state of Alaska but outside of the municipality of Anchorage. For this election, there was 46 voters that have been identified that they are registered within the state of Alaska but outside of the municipality of Anchorage. Anchorage Municipal Code requires voters to have registered 30 days before the regular election or any election in order to qualify to vote. So these 46 voters were not eligible.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the rejection of count code MOA by our body?
I so move.
Thank you, Bonnie Lynn. You have moved. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Barbara. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment? Yes.
I have a simple question, hopefully.
Could you, for the record, state your name?
Randy Riedrich,
Thank you.
representing the Republican Party. I would like to inquire, were these people who just mistakenly got involved, or are these citizens who have moved but just failed to register within the MOA? Do we have an idea?
Through the chair, I do not know the specifics out of all of these voters if it was a failure to vote. I can just tell you that they are registered in other parts of the state and did not re-register in time. We worked with our early voting sites for the absentee ballots that are in here and worked to get these voters registered. So voters who are voting before election day and within the 30 days notice, the 30-day period, were given registration applications so they could update their registration. But there is only a handful of these that are from the absentee sites. The bulk of these come from precincts on election day where they were located outside of an Anchorage area.
Thank you.
And this voting a question ballot will work to register them here within the municipality of Anchorage. Unfortunately, because the regular election is within 30 days of the runoff election, they won't be able to get registered in time to qualify to vote for the runoff.
Thank you very much, Amanda, for that explanation. Are there any other comments regarding the rejection of the MOA count code? Hearing none, the motion to approve the rejection of count code MOA is on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye. Hearing none, the motion has been approved to reject count code MOA.
The next no count code is no count code O. This code is used if a voter marked through any of the certification requirements, including under the age of 18. There's one voter in this no count code, and they are under the age of 18.
Will they qualify to vote in the election May 5th?
Excellent question, through the chair. This voter who registered or who voted a question ballot at the polls on election day is 14 years old and will not be qualified to vote for the runoff election because they do not meet the 18 years of age requirement.
Someone's interested in voting. That's good. I hope they keep it up for the next 4 years.
Is there a motion to reject count code O before this body?
So moved.
Okay. Thank you, Joyce. Is there a second to?
Second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to reject count code O for this election. All those in favor? Well, just in a moment. Is there any more public comment? Kind of got a little bit beforehand. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Hearing none. The motion is passed to reject count code O.
The next no count code is no count code POA. This code is used when the ballot envelope is attested by a power of attorney and not a voter. There is one ballot that is in no count code POA. The Anchorage Municipal Code sets out clearly what a voter is able to use with the power of attorney, and attesting a ballot envelope is not listed as one of those available options. The options for attesting an envelope are really wide. The voter just needs to make a mark, so the voter could have simply made a mark instead of having it signed off by the power of attorney.
All right, is there a motion to approve the rejection of the POA count code?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. Has moved. Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, thank you, Bonnie Lynn. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment on this one? Hearing no comment, the motion to approve is on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. The motion has passed to reject count code POA.
The next no count code is SW. SW is a code used when the ballot envelope is attested by the voter. Voting absentee by mail requires the voter to have a witness. It can be anyone over the age of 18, but we had 2 voters who witnessed their own ballot, and you can see that it is an identical signature on both the voter certificate and the witness. So there's 2 voters in no count code SW.
Is there a motion to approve the rejection of count code SW for consideration?
I move that the 2 ballots received and subsequently marked SW are approved as rejections.
All right, thank you, Vicki. Is there a second?
So moved.
You second?
Yes.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment? Hearing none, the motion to approve the rejection is on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say aye. The motion to reject count code SW has been approved.
The next no count code is no count code T. To be qualified to vote, voters must register or make registration changes at least 30 days before the election. It has been determined that no part of the voter's ballot can be counted because the voters registered after the 30-day deadline. So we have 32 voters who are in the no count code T, and out of these 30 voters that are in the no count T, a large portion of them had registered within the 30 days, and so they will be eligible to vote in the runoff election. They just were not eligible for the regular election. So there are 32 voters in no count code T.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask what was that date that they had to register by to be qualified to vote?
April 5th, 30 days before the May 5th.
Is there a motion to approve the rejection of count code T for our consideration?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Bonnie Lynn. It's been moved in a second. Is there any public comment regarding the T count code? sometimes it's difficult for me to differentiate between the MOA and the T, but could you give a little more explanation of that?
Yeah, I'll just take a moment and I'll actually talk about MOA, T, and X because they are all a little bit related. So MOA are voters that are registered within the state of Alaska but are not registered within the municipality of Anchorage. Anchorage Municipal Code requires you to register 30 days before the election in order to be eligible to vote in the municipal elections. The no count code T is voters that have registered to vote but not within the 30-day deadline. I always think about T as in time, so they register just not in time.
Mm-hmm.
And then the no count code X, which we'll get to in a little bit, but is similar to these other no count codes, is this voter is not registered at all within the state of Alaska. So we'll talk about those in a few minutes, but they are somewhat related to these other two no count codes.
All right. Okay,
It's been moved and seconded.
it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further, thank you, any further public comment regarding count code T? Hearing none, the motion to approve rejection of count code T is on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. The motion to reject count code T, the 32 ballots, has been approved.
The next no count code is no count code U. This code is used if it's been determined that there is no postmark or witnessing date on the ballot envelope and that the ballot was received by the municipal clerk's office after Election Day. So these ballots were voted absentee by mail, and they have no postmark on them, so we don't know that they were postmarked before Election Day. Did I read that right? Yeah. And so there's 10 voters that are in that no count code.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the rejection of count code U?
So moved.
Thank you very much, Joyce.
So moved.
And do you second?
Yeah.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded
Second.
that we reject count code U. Is there any public comment? Yes.
Randy Rieger, it troubles me that we can have 10 absentee, I believe it suggests they were all by mail, received without postmark. Do we have any idea how they got in the building? I would suggest that the Postal Service may have missed them, and they were, if we don't know how they got in the building, it's likely they came by mail. And it troubles me greatly that these folks are potentially being excluded due to a Postal Service problem. Because we really haven't, you haven't opened them to verify that there's not a witness statement, right?
Well, there's the witness on the back, so they don't.
You have opened them to that extent.
So some of these are witnessed after. So this one is witnessed on April 9th.
Okay. That's a different problem. And somebody.
So there's two things in this no count code. It's either that they're witnessed after Election Day or there's not a postmark.
Well, is the postmark before witness day?
So there's 3 that are specifically not postmarked,
Okay.
and they are witnessed on Election Day. Oh wait, 4, sorry. But we did not get these into the clerk's office until after Election Day.
Okay.
And then there is 7 that were witnessed after Election Day.
And they're postmarked not at all?
they're postmarked after Election Day also. So that's a double code.
Does that answer your question?
Materially, yes.
So there was only, as far as the component of that reject code about the no witnessing or the no postmark, there is only actually 4.
And we had what? How many thousands came in by mail?
Over 3,000.
So it's a 1/100% type error.
I'm not very good at math.
I would suggest, not that I'm advocating that you must count those, but I would suggest that those are post office mistakes.
And I think moving forward, the clerk's office would be happy to make sure we communicate with the local post office about postmarking ballots.
All we know, Randy, is that they were received and stamped with a stamp on the date when they were received in the clerk's office.
If we receive them, excuse me, through the chair, if we receive them before Election Day and they're not postmarked, we accept them. It's just when we receive them after Election Day with no postmark that we cannot determine if they were voted before Election Day.
Let me just add, a place for this comment probably later, but let me just make it here, and then we'll cover this completely. We now know that the post office, in the interest of saving money, has reduced afternoon pickups of mail. So in some places now, it is not likely that if you present your ballot to the postal system in certain parts of town, it will not be postmarked on Election Day if it's not turned in, I'll say by 10 o'clock.
Through the chair.
I was almost urged the clerk's office to consider requiring people to mail their ballot on the day before the election to ensure that the silly thing gets postmarked.
Through the chair, if I may.
Mhm.
We include instruction sheets with all of the absentee by mail ballots, and we suggest in this instruction sheets that the voter ask the post office to hand cancel their ballot if mailed on Election Day. So the
That's
hope
what we-
is always that the voter would read the included instruction sheet, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about that a little bit more as we get on to some of these other concerns.
Thank you.
We work really diligently, and I can tell you these ones are very painful as we reject these.
Any further public comment or comments from the commission? I would say the public comment period is closed. The motion to approve the rejection of count code U is on the table. Is there, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say aye. The motion to reject count code U has been approved.
The next no count code is no count code V. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Election Day, and these voters voted outside of the official time. We had 11 voters, and out of these 11 voters, 10 of them voted after 8 p.m. and 1 of them voted before 7 a.m. Our election workers are trained in their election worker training that if anybody comes to vote after the polls close at 8 p.m., that as election officials, they are to never turn anybody away. The voter is invited to vote a question ballot. And so these election officials were following the standard procedure for voters who arrive outside of the Election Day hours. So there is 11 voters in no count code V.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the rejection of count code V for our consideration?
I move that we.
Okay,
I
thank you.
second.
Thank you, Bonnie Lim. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. Okay, it's been moved and second. Is there any public comment?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Dennis Wheeler, Municipal Attorney. On the one that was voted before the polls, what's the explanation for how that happens?
The election official wrote on the envelope, voted before 7 a.m. This voter voted at 6:50 in the morning. So,
Are the election workers trained to handle those people the same way as the people that come too late? That is, they say you're too early, you have to go to this question ballot. Is that how that happens?
through the chair, I will tell you that this is the first time that I've seen someone who has voted early and arriving before election or before the hours. But I will tell you that as we go through the opening polls procedures, it's really clear in the manual and as they set up the polling places that people can only vote between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m., which are the hours. So,
But they did vote a question ballot.
yes.
So the election workers probably, obviously, allowed them to go through that process versus simply telling them come back later.
I cannot speak to specifically what happened at the polling location.
It might be that that voter was placed at a bit of a disadvantage because it's theoretically possible, had they been told your best bet's to come back, would that have been appropriate advice to them?
Or to wait 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not sure about that one. I mean, when somebody's late, they're too late. But if they're too early, that might be a different situation.
I could speak to this, having worked in the polls 9 years. There are people that are in a hurry and they'll say, I can't come back. I'm going to do it now. They've been asked also at times to go to a different precinct instead of voting out of their precinct. If they went to their own precinct, then their vote would count on all measures. And they'll say, I just don't have the time, I'm going to do it. And so I presume what happened is that the poll worker said, you know, can't you come back? And they said, no, it won't fit, I can't do it. And they'll say, well, it's possible to do a question ballot, but these are the times. And they are up all over the walls.
And this person was sent a letter that you have in a file, so they could have come here tonight to explain what they were told.
And they have until Tuesday to contact us.
Do we know if that person voted in their correct precinct?
They did. They are registered in 340, they reside in 340, and they voted in 340.
Okay. And I have one further question, and this is up to the precinct chair that is running the election. It's my understanding that if a person comes in before 8 o'clock and is waiting in line to go through the process, that they can still vote through the AccuVote and not a question ballot. But that's the way it was in where I had worked before. Is that correct?
No ballots can be scanned through the AccuVote until 7 a.m.
I mean, after 8 o'clock at night. I'm
Oh.
talking about if they were
No.
waiting in line.
Oh, yeah, excuse me, through the chair, absolutely. If a voter was waiting in line and the polls close at 8 a.m., we instruct the election workers to have one election official stand at the end of the line. So no new voters can get in line, but that everybody who's already in line is processed.
Right. Okay. That clarifies that for me. Because I saw one envelope that said it was 1 minute after 8, and I just wondered about that.
We spend a lot of time in training talking about that.
Right.
What to
Okay.
do should
All right.
a voter arrive.
Thank you very much. So, the motion to approve the rejection of count code V is on the table. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say aye. The motion to reject count code V has been approved.
The next no count code is no count code VT. This code is used when it's been determined that a voter has voted twice, and we have one voter in no count code VT, and this voter voted twice, both at different absentee early locations. So we identified the ballot that was cast first and moved it into the count pile, and the ballot that was cast second was moved into the no count pile. So there is one voter in no count code VT, and they have had their first ballot that they cast move forward into the count pile, and the second one has been set aside.
Okay. So, is there a motion to approve the rejection of the one ballot envelope that is count code VT?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask the election coordinator deputy, how did they get determined that they had voted twice? How did that happen to be caught?
We had both of I can tell you the by mail board found it. All voters that vote early are crossed off the precinct registers. So we had crossed off the first ballot that had been voted off the precinct register, and then when the by mail board was crossing off the second ballot, they saw that they had already voted once and was able to go back and get out that envelope, and a side-by-side comparison showed that it was the exact same voter, same signature.
So there is a process to eliminate those from all the others.
Absolutely. There's a series of checks and balances throughout the processes to make sure that people aren't voting twice. And since I've been in the clerk's office since 2010, we usually find about 1 or 2 a year.
I need a motion. I don't know if I asked that question. I thought I did.
I don't have a motion.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the rejection of count code VT?
I move that the account code, no count for VT be approved with the one ballot.
All right. Is there a second?
I second it.
Thank you, Barbara and Vicki. Any more public comment regarding this?
I think it's interesting if you listen to the news, many of the jurisdictions outside will say people are voting twice, you know, and I always find that remarkable because I don't see how they could.
Yes.
Let me try to address this as Randy. Generally, when you research those allegations, they are overwhelmingly materially not true.
Randy, could you explain yourself?
Well, you wind up with people as you have a very close election. One of the popular assertions for folks that are not doing real well is they start to allege somebody some way stole the election. And we've seen that in state elections where people say, well, we had too many people voting here, there, and yonder, or we know we had people doing this and that and this. And I have personally researched a number of those things and have never found that to be remotely true.
I heard what you said, but it sounds like what you were saying is not true, that this person voted twice.
No, I'm saying the allegations
Oh, well,
in the media
okay, yeah,
that there are
okay.
double counts. We had a village a few years ago in Alaska
Okay.
that allegedly had voted 145 or 55% of their voter file. It also happened that they were having a potluck that day, and many of the folks from villages up the river and down, many of the folks from the adjacent villages were there. Those villages that were north and south of the village that had the potluck for the past elder had very poor turnout because they voted question ballots. And so the total count was an irrelevant assessment of what was going on. The village itself had a 45-50% turnout, which is pseudo-normal.
Okay. Thank you.
Bad information being reported by the media.
Right. Thank you for clarifying that for me. All right. This is still,
Yep, so there's a motion and a second on the floor for the no count code VT, and I'm just waiting for a
yes.
count.
So there's no more public comment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none. The motion to reject count code VT has been approved for rejection.
The next no count code is no count code W. This code is used when it's been determined that the ballot is postmarked or witnessed after Election Day. We have 15 ballots that are in no count code W, and these ballots are all specifically postmarked after the Election Day. We have ones that are postmarked the 8th, all the way up until we just received a ballot today that was postmarked the 13th. So there are 15 ballots that are in the no count code W, which were all postmarked after Election Day.
Is there a motion to approve the rejection of the 15 ballot envelopes that are the code W?
So moved.
All right, it's been moved. Do I hear a second?
I second the motion.
Thank you, Bonnie and Joyce. All right, is there any public comment regarding count code W? I notice on the definition, it has also or witnessed after the Election Day.
These ones are all just postmarked,
Okay,
and we determined that they were postmarked.
okay, so there are none in that particular subcategory. All right, thank you. Any further public comment? Hearing none, the motion to approve the rejection of count code W is on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Aye. Hearing none, the motion to reject has been approved.
The next no count code before us is no count code X. This code is used when it is determined that the voter is not registered to vote. This voter is not registered to vote within the municipality of Anchorage or within the greater state of Alaska, and we have 52 voters in no count code X.
Right, is there a motion to approve the rejection of count code X for our body?
I so move.
Thank you, Barbara. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Joyce. It's been moved and seconded that we reject count code X. Is there the 52 count codes? Is there a public comment regarding these?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
Amanda, so these individuals, because they registered on Election Day, I'm assuming, will not be eligible to vote in the runoff, but they will be eligible to vote down the road in any election because their ballot will be, or their paperwork will be processed, so they will become registered voters?
Excellent question through the chair. These voters will, this top copy of their ballot oath and affidavit envelope will be sent to the state of Alaska, and the state of Alaska will add these voters to the voter registration database. I can tell you that a lot of these voters are young, so first-time voters, so now they're getting registered and will be eligible in the next election. There's quite a few of them that were just turning 18, so that is
Thank you.
exciting that they'll be registered.
For the next regular election.
Yes, not the runoff.
Dennis, did you have a comment?
Through the chair, she stole my thunder.
Good question.
We're really thinking hard here.
But Mr. Chairman, it does raise an interesting question, and not intended to add any work to the municipal clerk's office, but has there been any thought, or maybe already do something along these lines in terms of outreach to the schools for kids that are turning 18 that might want to register? Or is that probably not?
There is a youth vote program, and we have talked about it at varying times, but right now, you're right, we just don't have the staff to do that. But the youth vote program is going forward anyway.
We have quite a few election officials that are between the ages of 16 and 17 that are working at the polls, and so we've worked on that outreach over the last couple of years, and I would love to move forward with working on getting high school students registered, and I think that that's something that we can take into consideration.
Mr. Chairman, there was one in the past, a kid vote they called it. I think it was
Yes.
two elections.
Mhm.
Mr. Chair?
And that, well, I would like to recognize Randy. He's had his hand up for a while.
Thank you. Randy Riedrich. My general experience has been that the Anchorage high schools do a great job of getting every senior that goes through a government class to register. There's political sections taught in the class, and generally, if you're not registered for those 2 or 3 classes where party folks come in and talk, you're registered by the end of that period. So I suspect we have some people slipping through the net who may not be completing high school and not getting that senior government class.
Possible. Yes, Joyce?
Mr. Chair, if I may, as president of the League of Women Voters of Anchorage, we have a youth vote project that we conduct every other year in a major election, where we work with the superintendent, and they have a mock election that they actually develop a ballot and they're able to vote on their computers in school, and we also go into the schools and do registration. So we don't do it in an off year, what we call, which would be a municipal year. We do it in a state or federal presidential year. So that's been going on for probably 6, I think, major elections, and so we have a very good working relationship with the superintendent in the high schools. And as Randy was saying, we go into the government classes and they register, and we have on National Voter Registration Day, we have places set up at the library and other places and through the schools where we try to coordinate to get people registered. So we're doing that on an every other year basis.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Bonnie Lynn?
Okay, well, 2 things. In the past, they did it through the elementary school, and we did that. But also recently, someone that was working in elections within the last year, kids that are they're not quite 18 and are runners, they said, well, I'm going to be a senior this year, and I'm going to make sure everybody registers. So I thought that was encouraging to run into the youth that were determined to get everybody registered.
Right. Well, it's a good thing in one regard that we have that many who are wanting to vote, and now they will be able to vote, so that's good. Is there any further public comment? Hearing none, the motion to approve the rejection of count code X is on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. Hearing none, the motion to reject count code X has been approved.
The next no count code and the final no count code is no count code Y. This code is used when it's been determined that the ballot was not properly witnessed. For by mail or fax ballots, an authorized official or one person over the age of 18 must witness the voter's signature. We have 40 of these, and the clerk's office is working with the by mail board, and we are trying a pilot project. It's really painful to not count this many ballots. The voters went through the process of requesting a ballot, they voted the ballot, they mailed it back in, and it's really hard for us to say that these ones won't count. So we are running a pilot project. We are going to highlight the area on the ballot where it asks for the voter signature, the voter identifier, and the witnessing affidavit, in the hopes that this additional highlight will call attention to this area and voters will remember. When we send out the ballots, they do come with an instruction sheet that says that it needs to be witnessed. And we are just trying to do this extra step to hopes that we will have less than 40 in the no count pile at our next canvass in 30 days.
Right. All right.
So there is 40 in no count code Y.
Is there a motion to approve the rejection of count code Y for our consideration?
So moved.
Thank you, Joyce. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Thank you, Bonnie Lynn. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the rejection of count code Y? Yes?
Mr. Chairman, Testimony Municipal Attorney, a question for the clerk's office. On those 40, is it your sense that they're missing largely one of those 3 components, or is there some sort of takeaway that you can give the commission as to what they tend to miss most often? Is it the identifier, is it their own signature, or witness, or some combination?
It is mostly It is this many that are missing just the witness, and we have 8 that are missing the witness and the signature. So the vast majority are missing simply the witnessing affidavit, whereas a handful are missing both.
Yes, Barbara?
Through the chair, Amanda, could you explain the extra step that we go to try to make sure that if a voter does make a mistake on the by mail ballot by not providing an identifier, that we'll still, even though that says you must provide an identifier, that we're going to still try to find the person?
So, through the chair, we had 2 voters this year who did not provide an identifier on the envelope, but we were able to pull their request for a ballot, and they had provided an identifier at that point, and we had their signature on this envelope along with their signature on the request. So we had 2 voters that we were able to determine that they just forgot to provide an identifier, and we were able to count those ballots. It's harder when there's no witness to the signature. So we do try and say the most painful part of my job is going through and determining that there are votes that are not going to count, because I want everyone to vote. So I will be interested to see, this is our 3rd pilot project, the different things we're trying out with the election, and I will be excited to report back at our next canvas if it was helpful. I think it's definitely quite a bit of additional work for our by mail board, so we're thankful that they agreed to do it.
Is there any other further comment regarding the rejection code? Oh, yes.
Through the chair, we have also been working on the clerk's office social media. We created a mock-up of the ballot envelope and signed it, put an identifier, and had it witnessed. And we've been trying to share that frequently on our social media with the hopes that our followers will share it with other voters to remind them the important steps of signing, providing an identifier, and having your signature witnessed. So we've been also trying to work through social media. Thank you.
All right. Is there further comment? Seeing none, the motion to approve the rejection of count code Y is on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say aye. Hearing none, the motion to reject count code Y has been approved and has passed. So before we close, I would like to take a point of order that I should have said to myself at the beginning. I neglected to ask for an approval in a motion to approve the agenda, which I did not do, and I apologize for that. It's too late to do that since we're through the agenda, but we'll proceed on to the next item. If there's no further public comment or comments from the members of the commission.
Member comment and then public comment.
Yes.
Public comment?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just for the record, my name is Eugene Carl Haberman. I would like to note that I witnessed the proceedings of this meeting, the Anchorage Election Commission's canvass meeting, and I also was present at the meeting earlier today of the Anchorage Election Commission. That was held from 3:30 to 4:31 p.m. today. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you for your interest. Any commission members have a comment? Yes, Joyce? Anderson?
I would just like to comment that I think that Amanda has done a wonderful job, and she's really very well organized, and it was a well-run election. And I just want to congratulate you on that. And so,
Here, here.
being that that was something I did in my previous life, I understand all of the little ins and outs. So I just want to say congratulations. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I kind of went through A and B for some of these larger rejection numbers. And I think that 118 were kind of like mistakes of the voter, not of the clerk or anything. And 118 is quite a few, isn't it?
Mhm.
And then there were 36 that were more technical. And the rest, when they're single digits, I think that's just, happens in an election. But I would like to, I know you have worked very hard to increase the number of people voting, but perhaps how could we do that? And not us as the commission, but as the clerk's office, or is there any obligation to do that? I mean, it's admirable that you were trying. I'm not criticizing.
So through the chair, just to clarify, is the question about increasing voter turnout or about helping voters be able to vote in a way that their vote is counted?
I wonder if someone in the legislature has moved that they vote on election day.
Oh, same day voter
Yeah,
registration?
registration and election. And I wonder how that would be handled, because you've been through a lot of paperwork. How would you do that? That's a different question, I'm sorry.
Through the chair, I don't know the answer to that. I know that we just recently saw that come up in the legislature, and I think that the clerk's office would work with the municipal attorney to fully review how that would impact our elections, and I'm not comfortable to speak about it now.
Through the chair, I'm wondering if Madam Clerk or anybody else has experience with whatever steps the state takes. Once you file your registration with the state, what needs to be done before they can feel like you are in fact a registered voter? What's that time period? As a practical matter, and if you have same-day registration, is that a problem actually to verify that voter is who they say they are and actually resides where they reside? I don't know what the process is at the state level at this point.
I can tell you that the first election I ever voted in was in Minnesota, a state that had same-day voter registration, and I registered to vote and voted the same day. But I'm interested to have the conversation if the state moves forward with it and understand the impact. But I think we would have to look at our code, because our code's specific to 30 days voter registration for our.
So it would take a code change then to reduce that.
Yes, Barbara?
Through the chair, I think we would recognize if we did have same-day voter registration, I imagine that they would be question ballots and people would be filling out question ballots. So I think we need to keep in mind that it would be a lot more work for us. And I think, what that means is it means preparation, it means staffing. We've got some pretty short deadlines between the time period of the election and when we certify the election and have this public canvass, and we just would need to monitor that and make sure that we're ready.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I was going to have a question to Joyce. How was it done in
Well, it's complicated. So as Director of Elections in Minneapolis for 16 years and doing Election Day voter registration, it's a complicated process. You would need more poll workers because there's going to be more people coming. I think I mentioned to Amanda a week or so ago that on one presidential election we had 45,000 people register on Election Day. So, we're not talking small numbers. Of course, Minneapolis is about, 390,000 or something like that. But, and that would be people which we do right now with the challenge ballots. Do you see what I mean? But they would come in and register because they had, and there had to be ID or witnesses. The whole thing is very, very complicated. And if the state of Alaska were to do that, there would have to be a lot of things that would have to be looked at. And it definitely would cost more money, would be one major major part, component of that as well. In addition to what you're talking about with the, the verification, and needless to say, those 45,000 people that registered on election day were not processed within, 2 to 3 weeks. That doesn't happen, So I mean, there's a way of looking at it, and Minnesota deals with it, with the identification that's provided on election day, and confirming that sort of information and witnesses and so forth. So there's other ways to look at it other than what the commission did. So it's, I don't know if I would recommend it or not.
It's interesting, through the chair, when you look at states that have high voter turnout, it's the states that have the same day voter registration
Exactly.
that have the highest voter turnout across the country. So it would be an interesting conversation. I think that I'm always open for conversation.
Well, that leads me into a thought about this year's process, and that has been to expedite and try to speed it along, not necessarily speed it along, but make it more to flow better, and to have some new ideas of how we could do it. Because the first year I did it, which was 5 years ago, it was so tedious working with counting and recounting and adding and subtracting, and it was just burdensome. And as a commission member, we all were just about to our wits' end with dealing with all the counting that we had to do. And so this year, I think we've looked at some new ideas and some streamlining, some possible pilots that we've tried on different occasions. And I think that's going to be the way of our future for the commission next year and to come. So I commend you for your willingness to look at new ways to do things, not just go by what's in this book, Because this is a hindrance. It's like a ball and chain around our ankles when we try to do our work. So thank you very much for your leadership.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. Is there a motion and a second that we can adjourn?
So moved.
Been moved. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Thank you,
And the time
Joyce and
6:28.
Bonnie
Thank
Lynn.
you.
6:28. We got through this in
Any
less than an
objections?
hour. Is there any objection? Thank you. To us adjourning? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you very much for being here today.